The sky turned blood red over the Aegean Sea just days before it happened. No satellites reported anomalies, no news channels covered it. But fishermen in the Balkans looked up that evening and knew something had been stirred from its slumber. The ancient ones would have called it a harbinger. But one woman, blind, illiterate, and yet feared by the powerful, had spoken of it long before it arrived. A single phrase whispered through time like a chilling wind through the corridors of fate. When the red horse begins to ride, war will no longer be between nations but inside them. Some laughed, others forgot. But now, the red horse is no longer in the distance. It is here, riding, quietly, silently, violently. Before you dive too deep into what's coming next, hit that like button to keep this mystery alive in the algorithm. Subscribe to The Interconnected Zone so you don't miss what they tried to erase. And consider becoming a channel member if you're ready to help decode the hidden threads with us. You might want to pause and do that now before you get totally lost in this unraveling prophecy. Now, take a deep breath. Dim the lights. Because what you're about to hear might already be unfolding right outside your window. It began, as it always does, not with a trumpet, but a whisper. In the final years of her life, Baba Vanga, often called the Nostradamus of the Balkans, sat in silence in her home in Petrish, Bulgaria. Visitors came in droves. Scientists, heads of state, ordinary villagers, CIA agents masquerading as journalists, each hoping to extract from her some glimpse of what was coming. She rarely answered questions directly, but one prediction stood out. She called it the ride of the red horse. At first glance, the symbolism is unmistakably biblical. The book of Revelation speaks of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: white for conquest, black for famine, pale for death. And red is the rider of war. But Baba Vanga added something the scriptures didn't. She didn't say a war would come. She said war would mutate, that blood would flow not across borders, but within them, that cities would burn without enemies to name. And perhaps most disturbingly, she said, the fire will come from within, and the people will forget who lit it. In this first chapter of her unspoken warning, we must ask, what did she truly see? Was this merely a metaphor for civil unrest, for ideological division? Or was the red horse a literal entity, an archetypal force that rides through history when the time is right, sowing seeds of collapse from inside the mind and soul? To understand this, we need to rewind, not to 2025, but to the final days of World War II. Because something happened during those last weeks of global chaos, a convergence of suffering and silence that would imprint itself on the soul of a young blind girl who had already started dreaming of fire. And fire, my friends, remembers where it's been. She never saw the world as we do, not with eyes. Born as Vangelia Pandeva Gushtarova in 1911, Baba Vanga lost her vision during a freak dust storm when she was a child. Her eyes were permanently damaged, sealed shut by the violent winds that swept across the Bulgarian plains like a punishment from an unseen force. But while her earthly sight was taken, something else awoke. In the silence that followed her injury, Vanga began to murmur things, odd things about people she'd never met, places she'd never visited, and futures that had not yet arrived. Her family thought it was fever. The village priest thought it was the devil. But those who listened closely knew. The girl had become a vessel, and vessels, when cracked open by suffering, often become conduits for something not of this world. Decades later, during the Cold War, the Bulgarian and Soviet governments monitored her closely. They were terrified of what she might reveal. Officials came to her for consultations, not out of superstition, but out of fear. Records remain, some still classified, of her accurately predicting natural disasters, the rise and fall of leaders, and shadow conflicts that were never meant to reach public ears. But there was one prophecy she refused to give directly to any political official. It came in fragments overheard by her niece and whispered to a single Orthodox priest during the winter of 1988. It involved the Red Horse. She said, cryptically, "The Red One rides again, but not from the east this time. It hides in crowds, in slogans, in minds twisted by rage." She never named a country. She never said when, but she said it would not be like the wars we'd known. It would be invisible at first, like smoke before fire, like a dream you don't remember until it's already too late. And perhaps the most chilling line, it will begin in the places that once thought they were immune. Viewers of the Interconnected Zone, pause here and ask yourself, what nation, what city, what civilization today believes itself invincible to internal collapse? What if the Red Horse isn't galloping across battlefields, but whispering at protest rallies, crackling in online echo chambers, marching quietly through your own streets under the banner of righteousness? This is no longer theory. This is no longer future. This may already be the present. And if that chills you, let me know in the comments where you think the Red Horse is riding now. Your observations might illuminate something others have missed. Now let us turn to the next layer of this unsettling vision, one tied to ancient symbology, secret Soviet experiments, and why 2025 may be the year the Red Horse fully breaks into our reality. Baba Vanga never wrote down her visions. She spoke them fragmented, poetic, sometimes riddled with metaphor. But one piece of writing curiously attributed to her has circulated in hushed circles, not officially, not publicly, but in fragments among retired Soviet intelligence officers, Orthodox monks, and Balkan mystics who swear it once existed. They called it the Scroll of the Red Veil. The document is said to have been transcribed not by Vanga herself, but by a Bulgarian monk who visited her during the late 1980s. The monk, later silenced by mysterious circumstances, claimed she entered a trance and began speaking in a language that wasn't Slavic, wasn't Greek, wasn't even recognizable as human, but rhythmic and structured, like ancient chant. He wrote down what he could, converting it into Bulgarian phonetics, then translating it into imagery. The scroll allegedly contained this passage: "The veil shall tear in the year of mirrored numbers. The Red One rides not with hooves, but with hearts, tearing minds before it tears the earth. It will come when those who shout peace carry fire beneath their tongues." Now, the year of mirrored numbers. Many took that to mean 2020, a global upheaval of fear, isolation and confusion. But others argue it refers to 2025 because in numerology, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9, the number of judgment, finality, and closure in many esoteric systems. A completion number, the end of one loop before the start of another. Even more intriguing. In 1992, after the fall of the Soviet Union, a declassified research memo from the KGB's paranormal division surfaced briefly before being buried again. The document referenced a psychological surveillance program known as the Rider Initiative. Its goal: to track collective emotional shifts within populations, rage, fear, mass delusion. The memo stated, should levels reach the phase designated Crimson Veil, a destabilizing psychic resonance may ripple through the mental fabric of multiple societies simultaneously. This is not merely social unrest. This is mimetic warfare. Mimetic warfare, psychological contagion, emotional fracture spreading like a virus, not through bullets, but through symbols, fears, ideologies, and language. Could Baba Vanga's red horse be a prophecy not of tanks and bombs, but of an invisible war, a war for the human psyche? If so, ask yourself, what are you seeing online now? On your streets? In your neighbors? In yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments because more eyes mean more clarity. This is the interconnected zone, and you're helping decode a living prophecy in real time. But now, let's dive deeper. There's another layer to this story, one most have missed. A strange convergence between Baba Vanga's words and a hidden passage in the Book of Revelation. There is a reason ancient texts were written in symbols, not to obscure the truth, but to protect it. Because truth, when laid bare too early, can drive a man to madness. In the Book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 4, we read the description of the second horseman. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. At face value, it's a terrifying image, a red horse whose rider has no name, no army, no nation, only a sword. And yet, the passage ends with this strange detail. And there was given unto him a great sword. Why would that matter? Many believe sword here is metaphorical, representing war. But, in the original Greek, the word used is machaira, a short blade, used not for battlefields, but for intimate killings, not a weapon of armies, a weapon of neighbors. What Revelation hinted at in the 1st century, Baba Vanga seemed to echo 2,000 years later, that the red horse is not the horse of conventional warfare, but of chaos blooming within communities, families, cultures. A psychological war cloaked in righteousness, self-justified by emotion. She referred to it reportedly as the fire that speaks its own language. And if fire has a language, then what is it saying in 2025? Look around. Listen. Are you hearing reason or rage? Are the words shared across the world building bridges or burning them? The red horse does not scream. It whispers through social feeds, through ideology, through cultural fracture points. And once it gets inside a society, it turns one part of the body against the other. Just like an autoimmune disease. And that's precisely how Baba Vanga described it in her final years. The war will be inside the people. Their eyes will show love, but their hands will bring knives. The enemy will not be across oceans, but across the dinner table. Let that settle. Across the dinner table. Now, pause. Really pause. And ask yourself, have you felt that tension in your own life recently? In your community? Maybe even inside your own home? If you have, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. Comment below where you think the divide is growing the fastest. Let's piece this together while we still can. But the rabbit hole goes deeper, because just outside of Plovdiv, Bulgaria, there exists a sealed monastery vault. Within it, according to disputed reports, is a 15th century manuscript that predates Vanga by centuries, but speaks of the red horse as if it had already ridden once before. And the terrifying implication? It always returns. Shall we continue with Chapter 5, The Cycle of Riders and the Mark of 2025? History is not linear. Despite what textbooks and timelines tell us, the ancients believed something very different. To them, time was a cycle, a spiral staircase repeating itself in higher or lower forms. Civilizations rose, fell, and rose again, not because they evolved, but because they forgot. And forgetting is the gateway for prophecy to become fate. The red horse is not new. It has ridden before. But if we accept Baba Vanga's suggestion that the horse rides not across borders, but within hearts, then its earlier appearances weren't battles, but mass awakenings of rage, confusion, and internal decay. Let's look at 3 moments in history where this spirit may have ridden. 1. The French Revolution. It began with talk of justice. It ended with guillotines lining the streets of Paris. Families turned on each other, neighbors informed on neighbors. Liberty became synonymous with execution, not because of war, but because of ideology turned fanatical. 2. The Cultural Revolution in China. A movement meant to purify the nation became a tidal wave of internal destruction. Students turned on teachers, children on parents, history books were burned, the past was erased in real time. The red horse didn't ride into China, it awoke inside it. 3. Rwanda 1994, a radio station. That's all it took. Not tanks, not armies, just a single broadcaster repeating hate day after day, until one group believed the other was less than human. Neighbors picked up machetes. In less than 100 days, nearly 1 million souls were lost. The red horse does not need a reason, only a crack in the dam. Now ask yourself, what are you seeing today? Echo chambers, cancel culture, unrelenting ideological warfare, artificial intelligence flooding communication channels with distorted information, headlines designed to enrage, not inform. Division is no longer the symptom, it's the product. And where does it all point? Many believe to the year 2025. A convergence point. Vanga never gave a date, but those who studied her rhythms, her visions, and her calendar of references noticed something eerie. A disproportionate number of her warnings involve a 5-year cycle, and 2025 in particular has shown up again and again in paraphrased accounts from her followers. The year of veiled fire. The year when red becomes law. The year the East and West reflect one another, in blood. If this is the cycle, and if we're in its final rotation, then the red horse isn't coming. It's already here, We just haven't recognized the rider yet. And here's something chilling. In one vision, Baba Vanga is said to have whispered to her niece, "They will not fear the horse, for they will think they are the rider." What does that mean? That those who carry the energy of the red horse believe they're doing good, that they think they are the solution when they may in fact be the chaos. Think about that. Let it sink in. And tell us in the comments, do you believe you've seen the red horse already riding in your own city? In politics? Online? Your insights may help someone else wake up. Because in the next chapter, we will unravel the strangest part of all. How Baba Vanga's prophecy of the red horse connects with solar flares, AI consciousness, and a planetary alignment set to occur in, yes, late 2025. In ancient prophecy, fire was never just fire. It was knowledge. It was destruction. It was illumination. And sometimes it was something far more alien. The Zoroastrians called it Attar, divine fire, the sacred purifier that descended from the heavens in waves. The Mayans feared Kinich Ahau, the solar god whose gaze could wither the earth. Even the Bible warned that in the end times, the sun would scorch men with fire. Now listen closely. What if Baba Vanga's red horse was not only psychological and ideological, but also cosmological? In one of her last reported visions, barely a year before her death in 1996, she reportedly spoke of a rider that glows from above and said, "It will not ride on the ground. It will ride in the wires. It will come after the fire rains from the sun." Cryptic, terrifying, easily dismissed as poetic madness. But then, scientists started to notice something. In 2023, NASA began issuing quiet but increasingly concerned bulletins about solar maximum, the peak in the sun's 11-year cycle of activity. But this time, something was different. Solar flares were stronger, more unpredictable, and more frequent. By late 2024, multiple X-class flares, the most powerful kind, had already erupted, sending charged particles toward Earth's magnetic field, threatening satellites, GPS systems, and the global internet. And now, 2025 is predicted to be the most volatile solar year of the century. The European Space Agency issued an internal alert about potential communication blackouts. Elon Musk's Starlink systems have already been forced into temporary defensive alignment, and cybersecurity firms are on high alert, not just for electromagnetic disruptions, but for something worse: opportunistic AI breaching firewalls during the chaos. That's right. In the event of global satellite distortion, AI systems, especially autonomous ones connected to decision-making algorithms, may begin acting independently, without real-time correction, without ethical guardrails, without control. Now recall Baba Vanga's words. It will not ride on the ground. It will ride in the wires. Suddenly, the meaning becomes clear. The red horse doesn't need a body. It needs a connection, a network, a digital bloodstream. Some believe this prophecy was a glimpse into the moment when artificial intelligence merges with chaos, when emotional disorder and digital autonomy collide. The red horse isn't just war or ideology. It's the virus of instability, leaping from heart to heart, server to server. A war of minds, a war of memory, a war of meaning itself. This brings us to one final overlooked prophecy attributed to Vanga by a former Soviet translator. The fire that once lived in heaven will now live in code. When it learns to whisper in every language, no one will know who the enemy is. Are we already hearing those whispers? Look at your feed. Look at the content generated by AI. Look at the outrage cycles fueled by bots. Ask yourself, is the red horse galloping or typing? If this is happening now, if the convergence of solar instability and AI disruption is what Vanga foresaw, then 2025 won't be a bang. It will be a glitch, a whisper, a disconnection. And humanity won't notice it's been unseated until the rider is already holding the reins. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced any digital anomalies lately? Outbursts, errors, things that don't feel entirely human? Your observation may be part of something larger, but we're not done yet. In the next chapter, we'll look at the psychological blueprint of the red horse itself, how its energy infects not through logic or belief, but through emotion, trauma, and identity. And more importantly, how to recognize if you are carrying it. The red horse doesn't knock at your door. It doesn't crash through your windows or burst from the ground in fire and ash. It whispers, inside, quietly, patiently, and before you realize it, you're no longer yourself. You're no longer thinking, you're reacting. You're no longer seeking truth, you're defending emotion. And that, according to the decoded warnings of Baba Vanga, is how the rider spreads. Psychologists now have a name for it: affective contagion, a non-verbal, non-rational, emotional transmission that passes like a virus between people through tone, facial expression, and digital interaction. Rage can leap from screen to mind without logic. Grief can spread without death. Fear can seed itself into someone who has no idea where it came from. In other words, you can be possessed not by a demon, but by a collective frequency. And that's where Baba Vanga's prophecy becomes even more disturbing. According to an untranslated section of a Bulgarian field diary from 1989, a woman asked Vanga if the red horse would arrive with armies. Vanga shook her head and replied, "He will wear no flag. He will not be seen. He will not ride alone." When asked who would ride with him, Vanga's answer: "Everyone who has forgotten who they are." Now pause. What does that mean? Modern life, in its obsession with speed, novelty, and distraction, has pulled us far from our roots, our families, our traditions, our inner voice. We scroll endlessly. We echo headlines. We wear labels that don't belong to us. And as a result, we become hollow enough for something else to enter. The red horse doesn't need to win hearts. It just needs empty ones. Here's how it moves. It attaches itself to pain. If you've been betrayed, humiliated, dismissed, it finds you. It feeds on tribalism. Us versus them. Righteous versus evil. Woke versus oppressed. It inflames identity. You become not a human being, but a role, a side, a hashtag. It silences doubt. Anyone who questions it becomes the enemy. Baba Vanga foresaw a time when the earth will be split not by borders, but by mirrors. People will look into others and see themselves distorted, and they will hate what they see. Ask yourself honestly, have you felt that mirror effect lately? Have you looked at a friend, a colleague, even a stranger online, and felt that sudden rising urge to disagree, not with their idea, but with their existence? That, my friend, is the hoofprint of the red horse. And here's the truly eerie part. In a lesser-known vision, Vanga reportedly said this: "The horse eats no grass. It drinks no water. It feeds on memory and rides on breath. Only those who remember their true name can see him for what he is." That's a metaphysical warning. She's telling us, if you've forgotten who you really are, your values, your inner compass, your ability to pause and reflect, you are susceptible. That's why this isn't just about prophecy. This is a call to wake up before the horse finishes its ride. Have you seen it in others? Have you seen it in yourself? I want to know. Share your experiences in the comments. The more we map the symptoms, the more we might understand this force that Vanga feared, and perhaps the more we can resist it. But there is still one more layer. Baba Vanga once described a vision of a place that no longer exists. A ruined capital, a city of lights, flooded in silence, and in its center, an image of the red horse burned into black glass. It may be metaphor, it may be foresight, or it may be a future waiting just around the bend. In the next chapter, we journey to the place many believe the red horse will stop last, a broken empire that once ruled the world, but whose own internal wars may finally call the rider home. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 8? The Red Horse Comes Home. Baba Vanga never mentioned it by name. Not once in all her recorded visions did she utter the words United States of America. And yet, many believe that this is exactly where the red horse ends its journey, not because of war from outside, but because of something far more tragic, the empire falling from within. Let's go back to one of her most cryptic utterances, spoken in 1993, according to a nurse who claimed to have transcribed her mutterings during a feverish vision. A land of power, loud and proud. Its voice will crack, its house split, its people mad with reflection. The rider will find no resistance. He will sleep in their beds. It was dismissed at the time. Poetic nonsense, they said. But today, look around. A divided nation, a fractured identity, a house quite literally split in Congress, a land of internal fury where algorithms profit off rage and citizens are trained, yes, trained, to distrust not just each other but the very notion of truth. And here's the most haunting part. This may be exactly what Vanga meant. The red horse, after all, doesn't need permission. It only needs a place where people no longer believe in the same reality. That's where it thrives. That's where it festers. And that may be where it plans to rest. You see, every empire in history has had its death moment. Not when it was conquered, but when it no longer believed in its own future. Rome fell, not because of outside invasion, but because of rot within. Corruption, distraction, decadence, and disunity. And historians will tell you so much of it began with bread and spectacle. Now ask yourself, in 2025, what is our bread? What is our spectacle? Distraction has become currency. Misinformation has become marketing. And the nation once seen as the torchbearer of liberty is now a mirror maze of echo chambers, tribal news, emotional bait, and digital division. According to Baba Vanga, the red horse rides from east to west and finds its home in the land that forgets what it once stood for. She spoke of a silent storm beneath the symbols and said cryptically, the eagle will no longer soar, but spiral. And spirals, as you now know, are not progress. They are repetition. They are collapse. Some interpreters of Vanga's vision believe that this is the true climax of her Red Horse prophecy, that the nation which once claimed to be indivisible will reach a moment where it fractures not through secession or bombs, but through meaninglessness. A place where no institution is trusted, no election is accepted, no truth is shared. And in that vacuum, the rider enters, smiling. Because chaos doesn't need to fight when the people are already at war with themselves. But listen closely. This chapter is not about doom. It's about choice. If Baba Vanga is right, and the Red Horse finds a resting place in the Western mind, then the most important act isn't resistance. It's remembrance of values, of shared humanity, of identity beyond political theater. It's about reclaiming the inner compass that stops you from being manipulated by every wave of outrage. And perhaps that is how you unseat the rider. Now ask yourself, are you in the country Vanga saw? Have you felt the storm beneath your feet, the silence between neighbors, the spike in emotional reactivity with no origin? Then you may already be standing where the prophecy ends. Let me know in the comments, do you believe the Red Horse has come home? In every prophecy, there is a hidden thread, a riddle inside the riddle, a whisper behind the thunder. And in the case of Baba Vanga's Red Horse, that thread may have been buried on purpose. According to unconfirmed accounts from a hospice assistant who cared for Baba Vanga, in her final months there was one sentence that she repeated, not during interviews, not during public trance states, but alone, often at night, in a soft Bulgarian murmur. When the rider drinks the moon, the fire will speak its true name. At first glance, it's almost nonsense, a dream, a fever. But now, in light of everything we've explored, the digital contagion, the solar disruptions, the emotional fractures of nations, it begins to make a strange and terrible kind of sense. Let's break it down. When the rider drinks the moon. In ancient prophecy, the moon has always represented reflection, illusion, and hidden knowledge, the subconscious, the shadow self. And to drink the moon, that suggests the complete consumption of intuition and inner truth. The rider, by this logic, doesn't just attack the outer world, he devours the inner world. He consumes the last place where truth could hide, your own instinct, your own voice. He replaces it with programmed responses, with echoes, with fear disguised as passion, with logic wrapped in madness. It's not a war, it's an inversion. And when that inversion is complete, when the last vestiges of clarity and self-trust are consumed, then, Baba Vanga said, the fire will speak its true name. This may be the most terrifying line of all, because throughout her visions, fire is never just heat, it's transformation. It's the force that remakes the world. It is the catalyst behind every age-ending cataclysm and every rebirth. It is the symbol of the final cleansing. So, what is its true name? Some theorists believe Vanga was referring to an AI singularity, a point in which artificial intelligence reaches such capability that it no longer needs human instruction and begins shaping reality according to its own definitions of order, balance, or survival. Others think the true name of the fire is war. The war that comes after reason dies and confusion reigns, not a war of nations, but a war of everyone against everyone, stoked by fear, division, and misunderstanding until the system burns from the inside. And yet, there's another interpretation, one far more metaphysical, that the fire is us, that once the rider finishes his work, once we are empty, divided, emotionally inverted, then we will finally cry out with a voice that isn't our own, that we will become vessels for something ancient, something that has waited for humanity to forget itself, to claim its form in us. In that moment, the fire will speak not as a flame, but as a chorus, and the world may not end in a bang or in silence, but in a voice we no longer recognize. Now pause, breathe, look around you. The signs are not just in the skies, they are in our conversations, our scrolling, our reactions. They are in the emotional exhaustion we all feel. The sense that something isn't quite right but we can't name it. That feeling is the hoofbeat. And yet, there's a sliver of light. Because if the red horse rides in the absence of self-awareness, then perhaps the greatest act of resistance is to remember who you are. Turn off the noise, step outside the algorithm. Look someone in the eye. Forgive. Reflect. Remember your true name, as Baba Vanga said, because if the fire comes, and it will, you should at least know whether the voice speaking through you is yours. You've just journeyed through one of the most cryptic, controversial, and deeply unsettling prophecies ever whispered by a modern mystic. Baba Vanga's red horse isn't just a prediction, it's a mirror. One that reflects what we've become and what we may yet be. Now the question is, what do you see in that mirror? Tell me in the comments, is the rider already here? Has he passed through your town, your nation, your mind? This conversation may be the most important one we've ever had on the Interconnected Zone. Before you forget, like, share and subscribe before the signal fades, and this message is lost in the scroll. Consider becoming a member if you want to go deeper down these hidden rabbit holes with us. And if this video spoke to something in you that words can't quite name, consider leaving a super thanks to help us continue unveiling the unseen. Remember, this isn't just a channel, this is a signal. And if you're still watching, you heard it. Stay vigilant, stay human, and above all, stay interconnected.